As you can probably tell due to one of my recent videos, I've been playing Final Fantasy 9 quite a bit, but not on the PS1. I've actually gotten the Steam version mostly just because, I have never had a PS1 growing up, and by the time I got a PS2, it was like 2006 or something, so obviously I couldn't get a copy, and even then, I don't even know if young me would have gotten a copy, but still. I've gotten the Steam version, and I got it on sale, and frankly, I'm really enjoying it, and obviously because, I made 2 videos, so like this is my second video on the subject. But obviously, with every re-release of the game, there was always going to be bound to have different versions of the game. And honestly, so far, Final Fantasy 9 has been on PS1, mobile, Steam, and all the modern consoles up to date. And obviously, I will be talking about all of them, but first, I'll be talking about the differences between the PS1 and mobile version. And note that the PC version is actually really similar to the mobile version, along with the console versions, but the console versions have some slight differences, but that's the all I'll be going to. So to recap, PS1 to mobile and Steam, and then those versions to the console versions. But before we get into the different parts, let's actually go over the different regions. Also, might I add, the North American version and the European version are virtually the same, so I'll just be carrying those two versions to the Japanese release. One of the first differences is in the song Melodies of Life. It plays in the ending in the North American version, while in the Japanese version it's the opposite. Along with that, the sword fighting minigame at the start of the game actually has a few differences between the regions as well. In the North American and European version, if you get a perfect score, you can get an item and 1,000, or I think it was like 1,000 or 10,000 gil, but in the Japanese version, it depends on how quick you are. Also, the European version, it's a bit easier to get it, because back then a lot of games were at like 50 hertz compared to the other two regions. But later in the mobile and Steam versions, along with the PS4 versions, the perfect timing is easier just due to linear timing, along with there being actually color cues depending on the version you're playing. Like for example, the PS4 controller, I think that they would have like different, but like if you have to press the X button, obviously it would be blue just like the controller. The PC version also has something like this if you play with the controller, but if you play with the keyboard, there isn't any. Along with this, the North American version, Silk Skin now gives you a ribbon if you actually buy all the items from him. It's kind of a small addition, but it's a nice one. One feature that I found really cool between the PS1 version and all of the releases is the fact that this one actually has multiplayer. You can actually change what controller uses what character, which is probably the coolest feature in any jrpg. And honestly, I'm just surprised that this wasn't added in like the PS4 version or like any console version. And imagine if it was on the Switch, just because since that one's really portable and since you don't really need a lot of like controls for jrpg, then you could just easily hand over one Joy-Con to the other. And this would also work on PC, but I'm just super surprised that it hasn't been done again, just because of how big some consoles are on multiplayer. Now we're going to move on to the mobile and Steam versions, and more or less I think they're kind of the same version, since the PC version was based off the mobile version with some minor differences. One of them has to be the visuals. In both versions they actually have better anti-aliasing, higher definition cutscenes, and improved character models. There's also a new menu along with menu portraits for the party members, and along with that there's also a different battle user interface and dialogue windows. The random counter rate has also decreased, which honestly I think is better, just because you won't have to be running into enemies constantly, which for me I still think it's kind of high in some areas, but I think it's still not too bad compared to the original. But even then, I haven't played the original, so I wouldn't know, but from what I have played on the Steam port, it's still pretty good. There's also new sprites for the Tetra Master Card, and I will admit this one's really minor, but it's still a change nonetheless. Something that's actually been kind of modern starting from the PS3 era has been achievements, and all the versions have these. And I don't really know how they work on the mobile version, but I assume that they're there, since what I've looked up, they all have it. Well, again, maybe minus the Switch, just because that doesn't have built-in achievements, but that all other versions should have it. There's also a cloud data option on the main menu. Both the PC and mobile versions have this. And on the topic of saving, there's actually an auto-save feature in these versions. And from what I understand, I think it only works every time you change a map and after a big cutscene. So, if it say crashes, then you're safe as long as you change the map and after you capture some big story thing. There's also speed boosters which actually can help you with grinding. And there are other boosters that are in this game as well, like having max ATB, Trance, HP and MP, able to do 9,999 damage, disabling random encounters, and mastering all abilities. The character's levels, magic stones, and guild can also be maxed out. There's also a small change done to the overworld, and when you interact with the character, a small bubble will appear. For example, if you want to play the card game with them, a card will pop up above their head, which is pretty useful just because that way you can quickly decide, oh well, I want to play the card game with him, so I don't have to just mash the button in hopes I can actually play with them. And actually a classic thing related to the PS1 games is the FMVs, and this game has a lot of them, and some of them will actually change where now you can actually skip them minus the ending, which actually kind of makes sense since it is the ending of the game. Also in the original game, there was the blackjack minigame, and in later parts it can only be gotten by defeating the game first. In the original, you can actually enter a code to get it much earlier, but sadly, again, it's not in later parts. Another nice addition was the amount of languages added to the game in the global edition. I'm not going all of them, but most of them, it's mostly important ones like English, Italian, and stuff like that. Another thing that's actually kind of common with the old Final Fantasy games, at least the ones on the PlayStation 1, was having numerous discs to play them. And of course, since the PS1 games didn't really have enough space to contain all the data that's the company wanted to do, they just had to split it up. So now, of course, in the later parts, you don't have to do that anymore just because, we have enough space to actually contain all the data in one place. And obviously, the later ports actually remove the transition because, say if you get to end one disc, they would say, oh, remove disc 3, now put in disc 4 to actually continue on with the story, and obviously, you don't have to do that anymore, which is nice. There's also a small change done to the jump roll minigame. Now, on the Steam port, you can actually rapidly click the mouse without having to time it, and then there's also the battle with Beatrix. The menus now actually disappear, so that way the player can no longer see the HP stat decrease to 1, which makes no sense, but it's a small change that I didn't really care about. Some of the other changes also have to deal with the logos in the ending and the opening AMVs. In the ending, it's the Japanese logo, but in the opening, it's the English one for some reason. I have no idea, but it's there. The final change that I'm going to go over with these versions has to be the battle UI. In these versions, it runs at 30 FPS, which is actually the same thing for the consoles. Now we're actually all going to move on to the consoles, and these ones are actually based off the mobile and Steam versions as I probably mentioned before. The boosters are here, and getting to skip cutscenes are also here. There are also new types of boosters that are called cheats. These ones actually raise the character's levels, magic stones to level 99, master abilities, and max your money. But activating any of these doesn't let you get the achievement and trophies for these just because, I'm guessing since you all kind of just cheating the game. The anti-aliasing has also been improved for the hero, and the load times have gone way better than the other versions. Also, if you have the Xbox One or Windows 10 version, it can support the Xbox Play Anywhere. It's actually really useful for those of you who actually got it just because, you can just play anywhere if you have the Windows 10 or Xbox One, and I think the save data transfers over, so that's good. Also, another thing that the save data option is removed in the consoles versions. And those were all the changes done to FF9 over the years on different devices. Any of these are really good options just because, they improve somewhat on the old PS1 version. And honestly, I would say if you want to mod it, you get the PC version just because the mods out there can really make this game really look amazing. But honestly, if any of these versions will do you good. Of course, if you want portability, you get the Switch, and if you just want a normal experience, you can just get it on anything. But thank you guys for watching, and see you guys later.